So my name's Kevin Kubik. I'm 32 years old here in Chicago. I work for the local one Ironworkers, and this will be my 10th year of ironworking. All good, brothers. Safe. Tight off. Okay, yeah, so the pride as a local one ironworker in Chicago is like almost ingrained to you the moment you step into this local. We built so many iconic structures, as you can see from the skyline behind us, and there's just always been a priority on making sure that the classes that are coming into our apprenticeship understand that what we do is prideful work to look back on what you do on a day. But there's years of men's lives that have been laid down in order to get us the rights and the privileges that we have here in Chicago. Fear is definitely an aspect of the job, especially when you first get started. I've been lucky to have a lot of ironworkers that have taken me under their wings, where I've learned a lot of different facets of this trade and different ways to make them get completed. With that, there's not too many things I haven't been exposed to as of now, 10 years later. When I first got in, there was definitely a lot more trepidation or fear that would come up, but now I just kind of let the experience and the abilities that I have take over while still staying in a conscious environment without becoming complacent. Starting the apprenticeship and kind of getting that idea of being top dog drilled into your head is definitely an aspect that comes down to what we do. In my opinion, we're the #1 trade. A lot of trades are kind of blessed to have local one ironworkers here because we are so proficient in what we do and our abilities to keep everybody else safe. They kind of get a little bit complacent with the idea that if I drop a 4-inch by 1¼ inch bolt, it will destroy you. So with other trades, like we're almost always in a battle for our space to be able to do our job safely and appropriately. I guess with that also comes like the respect of a lot of the other trades. When they do see you step on the job, they're always kind of like, well, hey, at least the ironworkers are here, like, you know, stuff's gonna get done right. I don't think a lot of other trades have that full-on respect from other trades. When I first started my career here in Chicago, some of the more prolific jobs that were going on, I was lucky to be a part of, such as like Malcolm X College, the United Center edition, 3 Wrigley editions. I've added bridges here in Chicago, torn bridges down. I've worked on top of towers. I've worked on high rises. All of those experiences have shown me different aspects of the job and different ways to get things done. From working inside of an existing structure that was over 100 years old, to building on top of things that were only built in the 60s, to refitting buildings that aren't even that old. Every single one though, I mean, when you're 80 stories up, you have a lot different experience than when you're inside of a small structure not trying to take out an existing wall. I think here in Chicago we are very lucky just because we get so many different views of the work here. There's not a lot of locals that are both structural and reinforcing. I do mostly structural, but I have seen the reinforcing side of it as well, which is I think why you get some of the most well-rounded ironworking hands in the world right here, born and bred in Chicago. The closer you get to downtown, you're constantly being cramped in by existing buildings, so you always have like the swing factors that come in, or exposure to the community, you know, pedestrians walking around. Trying to keep everyone safe, including yourself, your partner, all the guys you work with, other trades. It's definitely not easy, and then the winter hits and everything freezes over, and everything that was hard in the summer, it just got twice as hard in the winter. But definitely an unforgiving environment to be doing difficult and dangerous work in. Here in Local 1, one of the aspects that we luckily get to take part of is doing broadcast work on top of the skyscrapers. I took my first job on back in 2018. It was on top of the John Hancock, formerly known as the John Hancock building. I don't even know what they call it anymore. So essentially it's a 100-story tower that has 400-foot towers coming off the top of it. It's a 100-story skyscraper with 400-foot towers. And on those towers, they affix antennas and broadcasting equipment for television that'll get broadcasted all throughout the Chicagoland area, across the lake into Indiana, and then again into Michigan. So doing that was definitely one of the more fearful things I've done as an ironworker, just because we're not so dependent on our harnesses. You know, like if you fall into a harness, you're not supposed to fall into your harness type of thing. And as a tower worker, I mean, that is your reliant. That's how you go to work. That's your car. So those aspects, those first few weeks were a little bit headier. But as the years have gone on, I've taken over the tower. I am the lead climber up there. So to be able to transition different skills from different aspects of my life into my job is kind of a special thing that I feel that I'm a part of, for sure. Okay, so the career progressions as an ironworker, obviously you apply, you take a test, which is your application. That gives you a ranking amongst all the other people who have taken that test that particular year. That test happens every 3 years. From that test, you get selected into the apprenticeship, running down the list from 1 to 250, 500, however many people took the test that year. As they get broken down into classes, you'll begin your apprenticeship, which we have a working apprenticeship. So it's about 6,000 working hours combined with while going to school. So you go to school for 2 years, twice a week, for 3 hours a night, 6 hours in total. You get paid for the school. Your third year, you transition into 3 nights a week at 3 hours per night. During that time, you take probably 20 different courses where you're getting certifications and everything from signaling and rigging to welding and first aid and everything in between. All the while, you're working countless hours in the field. And as an apprentice, you're punking, so you ain't doing all the glory work, you're doing all the behind the scenes work. After essentially 3 years of the apprenticeship, you get to break out and then you become a journeyman. From there, you get to make your own decisions on where you go, people you work for, jobs you take. You get a lot more freedom. 2 years later, which is 5 years now after your career started, you become a vested iron worker, and you're equivalent to every single one of your brothers that have been in for 35 years or your 5 years. So in Local 1, we call a crew of ironworkers a gang. So typically a gang would be 5 men, a foreman, plus 4 working hands. On a high-rise job, something that I would be on typically, you would have 2 connectors up in the air, which are accepting pieces from the crane as it comes in. You have your riggers that are either on the working floor beneath you or all the way down in the boneyard on the ground level, hooking up the pieces and flying them to you. Depending on the job, if the crane is either above in a tower or they have no access for view, we use what is known as a phone man. So it'd be a 6th man on the job who's then providing signaling and directions to the crane operator. His job is quite literally to be the crane operator's eyes, and he's in complete control of that crane at any given time. So sometimes the crane operator can't see anything and you're pulling levers with 100,000 on the hook by the voice of another guy you can't see. When we go to a welding job will have a lot bigger crews with only 1 foreman, but there's less erection happening, more installation and detail work. In Local 1, safety is definitely of the utmost importance. A lot of these old timers that we came up with, like, you know, they didn't have safety when they came around. So to now throw an old dog into new tricks, like, you know, they're just cranky. They don't want to be in a harness, and I get it. You know, as you get older, the last thing you want to start doing is like making your job more difficult by hauling more gear and whatnot. But at the same time, like, we haven't had a falling death here in Chicago in like decades. You know, there've been crushing deaths and there's been falling accidents, but luckily nobody's fallen to the death. So I think that obviously is because of the additions to safety. With that being said, I think that there's always better options than what's constantly provided to us. I think that we can make it more efficient or easier or lighter, you know, but it's still new in the whole realm of ironworking that safety is so prolific now. So when I first got in, I was definitely like gung-ho about 35 years in. Being in now for almost 10 years, like, I've definitely had some injuries. I've been lucky to not have anything too bad happen to me at work. And as a connector, like if you're running the web of a beam and you're not paying attention to what's in that web, you might shin a knife plate that's 18 inches long and just rattle your entire shin bone, or smash your knee into something like that. Just climbing iron all day, you know, iron's not soft, and you got to jam your body into places and make big lunging moves sometimes with, you know, your body weight plus another 60 to 80 pounds. It's definitely taxing on the body. There's always something that we say in Local 1 after an injury, is that there's no such thing as light work in what we do. There is no, you know, 5-pound working limit. Everything is heavy. Your tool belt alone is 20 pounds. So as much as I'd like to think that I'd be in it for another 25 years, the adrenaline that you get from the day of work is kind of hard to match. You know, it's pretty difficult to look behind you after a day of work doing anything else and not be like, damn, that's impressive. So yeah, I think that, like, the sense of accomplishment is always what keeps me going, but at the same time, my body feels a lot older than 32.